The African National Congress, as well as the Democratic Alliance, have concluded a closed-door meeting in Johannesburg held to address key points of contention which surround the GNU, the fiscal framework, as well as other disputes over value-added tax. Now, while both parties confirmed the meeting occurred, they declined to share specific details of their agenda. The DA labeled the engagement as forthright and constructive, whereas the ANC reiterated its unwavering commitment to its core principles. Joining me now is ANC spokesperson Mahlengi Bhengu-Motsiri. Mahlengi, good to have you on the program this evening to give us more perspective. So you've been reported as describing the recent meeting between the ANC and DA using words such as constructive. Can you unpack what progress was made behind closed doors and what specific outcomes or agreements emerged that give you some kind of confidence going forward?
Thank you very much for having us. This is the one meeting that a communicator of an organization struggles to meet the expectation of the public, because the meeting was really more about how do we move the process of the budget forward, taking into account the reversal of the VAT hike by the Minister of Finance. And the ANC, of course, had been meeting all parties that it invited. In fact, everybody was invited to sit around the table to try and find ways of breaking this impasse. Right. And the DA is part of that process. I do want to clarify, I think, and frame our meeting that it is in the context of the very first meeting that was asked by the ANC with the DA, the same meeting that was asked with all other parties, by the way, who came on board. We needed to come back to the DA and with the DA to say, now that there is consensus that and there's a decision from the Minister of Finance, let's work together to ensure that our country has a national budget and that government is working and that there are resources to fund the work of government, both social security work, infrastructure development, making sure that we employ doctors that are sitting idle at home, ensuring that we can meet all the teacher vacancies that we have in the country, to ensure that we can actually ensure more health workers. There are clear statistics pointing to where we can really close the hole in as far as employment in the public service, so that we can deliver better services to our people. So if you were to ask the African National Congress to frame the meeting, it was a collegial meeting. It was constructive. It was consistent with the spirit of the ANC, which you would have seen a joint media briefing held by the ANC together with a number of political parties that agreed with the ANC, and the ANC agreed with them to put the country first. So in any case, we're going to go back to Parliament to ensure that using the strength of ourselves and those parties to ensure that decency prevails and that our people can see a Parliament that is hard at work, passing the budget, so that we can then focus on the pressing challenges that are facing our nation.
Mahlengi, I want us to explore the theme of managing tension, especially in unity, given the very public tensions that have been seen between the ANC and DA over issues including the budget and the VAT increase. How do you balance ideological differences, really, while keeping the spirit of this government of national unity intact, really?
Well, I can just only reference one or two or three, pots of or baskets of experiences from which the ANC always draw. One of the things that the ANC will be known for, even by its own ardent critics, is our ability to bring people around the table and have a dialogue. That is what brought this democracy. If you had an ANC that was hot-headed all the time, that had no sense of strategy and had no sense of tactic, you would not have had a democratic South Africa today. It is the ANC that said we are going to put our arms down in order to allow space for peaceful talks. It is the ANC under the leadership of President Chief Albert Luthuli, who in 1952 led a defiance campaign, which culminated into the Congress of the People that adopted this lodestar document called the Freedom Charter. So, and although you can talk about the African Claims Conference in 1943, you can speak about a whole host of experiences that will demonstrate to you that it is actually in the character of the ANC to bring people together, including its ardent adversaries, and face each other in the face and say, how do we transcend what we disagree about and focus on what the nation is expecting? And all that happened all the way to CODESA, the Conference for a Democratic Future, that took us to democracy, all the way to the Constitution and the inaugurating of the first democratic constitution in South Africa. That entire process was led by the African National Congress. So I'm trying to give perspective to our ability to deal with ideological tension and look past that, and not looking past that, but in spite of that, proceed to unite with whoever we need to unite in order for the country to enjoy, I think, the fruits of democracy, and to ensure that the country can realize the more fruits of democracy in the form of economic emancipation. So we are quite mindful of the expectations of our people. We're quite mindful of our own weaknesses that have led to a trust deficit. We're working on those things, but we're not going to abdicate our leadership responsibilities, the ANC, because we are the only ones who are capable of bringing everybody together.
Speaking on recent developments, of course, the issue on everybody's lips, the Treasury's reversal of the VAT hike. Some say it came after a major public and political backlash. Was this a case of policy correction through democratic pressure or a sign of instability in decision-making at the top?
Well, I doubt that it is the latter, because the operations of National Treasury and the leadership of the Minister of Finance has never been in question. But I think we should accept that South Africa is really in a new epoch in as far as the consolidation of our national democratic project. We should accept that there are new coalition politics in our country that we need to contend with and frame, and I think put them under the scalpel in terms of understanding how coalition politics work and look at what is happening in other countries. So why am I raising all of these points? I'm raising all of these points to say it is the first experience of having a budget debated so extensively. And it is a result of the fact that the ANC had always been in government alone. We've always trusted that our electoral mandate will inform the decisions that get made, not that we influence Treasury, but that our deployee will make sure that those decisions, such as ensuring that the budget prioritizes social spending, ensure that we protect the social security net, the fact that we protect the living wage, all of those things that are part of our legislations that we committed ourselves to do as the ANC when we came into government are realized, whilst we promote and make sure that we look for avenues to grow our economy. The budget is balanced. It has always been balanced. When it was introduced, there was just a VAT matter, and consultations happen, which is a feature of any democracy. I doubt that it can be a reflection on Enoch Godongwana as the finance minister, who has actually led that National Treasury with distinction since he took on the role. On the basis of this, it cannot be. I think it's something for all of us to reflect on.
Before I let you go, I want us to continue exploring or taking a look at coalition governance in practice, really, in practical terms. How is coalition governance reshaping how the ANC operates, not just internally, but in how it negotiates or even compromises, and also how it leads with other political stakeholders?
Well, I mean, the fact that, earlier on in a conversation on SAFM, SAFM was putting across, or rather the anchor, a view that said the ANC is in a coalition with the DA, and something which the ANC continues and strongly dispute. We are in a government of national unity. And by the way, the government of national unity is not the first in South Africa. Under President Mandela, there was a construction of a first government of national unity, which even included the Freedom Front, the modern day Freedom Front, the IFP and others. Now, we are now experiencing a new government of national unity. On the other hand, of course, that happens in the context of municipalities, hung municipalities, and the sorts of coalitions that are taking place there. Let me indicate that the ANC has adopted a coalitions framework that has got principles that are embedded that says we are going to negotiate coalitions on the basis of the following and the following. And I think you would have seen that when this issue of coalitions took prominence in South Africa, the ANC itself was trying to find its place under the sun. But today we have an ANC mayor in Johannesburg, which demonstrates that we've understood the terrain. We have an ANC mayor in Ekurhuleni, even a vote of no confidence was defeated. We have an Action SA mayor that works with a deputy mayor who's from the ANC and MMCs that are collaborating very well with other parties in the city of Tshwane. What am I saying? I'm suggesting that the discussion about the makeup of coalitions in South Africa is a new discussion, but it requires a lot of thought leadership from many of the people who are opining about the stage of politics in South Africa. For our part, as the ANC, we are going to fight very strongly to come back as a majority where we have lost. We are going to do so because we know coalitions don't work in the long term. We believe that the Freedom Charter, which is the lodestar document that reinforced what the ANC needs to be doing in society, remains the only authoritative way into the future. We are in a government of national unity with a democratic alliance. We are ideologically opposed to one another, but we've got to cooperate for the sake of the nation.
Thank you so much to our guest, Mahlengi Bhengu-Motsiri, also sharing insights with us from the ANC as the party and its partners navigate this new chapter of unity and cooperation, as you've heard there.